Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming along. I'm going to do that thing that happens in church, if you were a church person like I was growing up, and ask if people could come to the middle, because there's 600 seats in this room and not 600 of us. So it would be really great if you could do that, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then we'll get started. I really appreciate you coming along to this session. It looks better already. It looks better already. Thank you so much. So my name is Sarah Weekly, and I am a research and knowledge exchange lead at the College of Social Sciences at the University of Glasgow. I'm delighted that the folks at SCVO asked me to chair this session, as I am one of the academics on their advisory board for their third sector tracker, which you'll hear more about later in this session from Steve. And most importantly, my work and interests are on poverty, inequality, and how the third sector plays a really important role in tackling those issues in our communities. So I really do have a keen interest in the transformative power of this sector for our communities. In this session, we're going to hear from 3 different presenters who will share the results of their primary data collection as it relates to the environment organizations like yours operate in, the challenges faced by your organizations, and how the sector is responding. We aim in this session to provide you with data to support you in your strategic planning and in your advocacy work, both to go back to your boards and funders and to share with decision makers outside of your organizations how your work has had to adapt and change in the current climate of rising costs and rising demands. So first, Mark from Diffley Partnership is going to share their Understanding Scotland data, a public opinion survey that captures how the public feels about the economy, and for the purposes of today, also the evidence they gather about the views towards charities and charitable giving. We then go a bit deeper into the sector itself with a presentation from Charles at Oscar, who will share data from 4 different research projects they undertake, all about what the sector looks like today, public trust, and plenty more. And finally, we'll hear from Steve at SCVO about their third sector tracker project, which provides an insight from over 600 organizations across Scotland over 6 waves of the survey that was started in 2021. This will detail the key issues faced by organizations, how organizations have had to adapt in the face of financial challenges, and what it looks like inside an organization today. You'll also have a sense, of course, of what it looks like inside your organization, but one of the things that has become really clear over the last couple of years is that this data is quite valuable in the work of advocacy, particularly when the sector is pushing to make those important changes such as multi-year funding, fair work, and all of those important issues. So together we hope to illuminate all the ways that information is being captured from your world to ideally improve decision-making both within and outside of your organization. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mark from Diffley Partnership. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Sarah, and I'm delighted to be here this morning. Thanks very much to SCVO for the invitation to come along and address the gathering. I was here for a bit yesterday. I was here last night, actually, for the brilliant session on the new films, which highlighted and showcased some of the brilliant organisations, and there were lots of kind of new organisations that I wasn't aware of that I saw the work of yesterday. So it's absolutely amazing to be here and speak to you. My job for 10 minutes is just to give you a kind of a snapshot of public opinion data. Our company is hopefully at the forefront of collecting new public attitude data. It's something that we do. It's core to our business, and we want to give a bit of insight today, at least a snapshot of some data, which hopefully will be of interest. And of course, collecting data and analysing, more importantly, analysing and thinking about how the public mood is changing does not happen in a vacuum. We live, I think, and I would argue, in a period of time where attitudes are very fluid, where behaviours are very fluid, and things change really, really quickly, much more than in the past. I was struck this year by a lot of the census data, which has been partly published, which shows actually the scale. I mean, think for everyone in this room and beyond, everyone at this conference, at this event, the scale of the challenges that face all of us. We have an ageing population. The proportion or the number of people of working age in Scotland has actually declined over the last 10 years. The population is becoming increasingly urban. There are many parts of Scotland, particularly remote rural Scotland, where the population is actually falling, the Western Isles, parts of Argyll and Bute, and so on. And the population is moving from west to east. The biggest rises in the population are in places like East Lothian, Mid Lothian, and actually here in Edinburgh. And many parts of the west, both west central and northwest of Scotland, the population is actually declining, not just the working age population, but the population as a whole. And these are kind of quite profound issues that we are going to be having to grapple with. And I think, and I would argue, that looking at public attitudes, public behaviours, we need to kind of bear all this in mind. What you'll see over the next 10 minutes is a snapshot of some data. Lots of numbers, hopefully not too many, and I'm sure the slides will be shared for people to look at in a bit more detail if you want to, and I'm around this morning as well if people want to catch up. But the context here is really, really important. And 2 years ago, we decided that what Scotland needed and what our community, our research community needed to provide was fast turnaround, high quality data which measured how that change was happening. And that's what I'm going to do today. So Understanding Scotland, which is our survey tool, which is a nationally representative survey of 2,000 adults in Scotland that happens every quarter, provides that at least some of those really important insights. And I'm actually delighted to see Susan Murray here from the David Hume Institute, with whom we work on some of the data that you will see today. So I want to cover really 4 points. There are 4 key things. There's loads of data. There's always more data. That's one of my mottos. But I want to cover 4 points really today. Scotland's direction of travel, which we'll touch upon, and then I think more importantly what the public are telling us their priorities are, what public views of the economy are at the moment, both at a kind of macro level and in terms of their own personal and household finances, and then how people are coping with the cost of living crisis, which of course is something that the First Minister referenced several times during his remarks earlier on. So the direction of travel, we put this question in every quarter. It's almost deliberately vague. People's motivations for answering this question will be different and varied, but I think for us it provides a bit of context. And you can see over the last couple of years, when the survey began 2 years ago, we were at 50-50. We are now in a position where more of us think Scotland is moving in the wrong direction, or the direction of things are heading in the wrong direction, they're heading in the right direction. I should say this is by no means unique to this country. It's in line actually with surveys that we see and observe actually across the world. So this is not a kind of uniquely Scottish phenomenon, but it is something that we're really keen to measure over time. Getting a bit more into the depths of the data, you'll see some of this stuff in opinion polls from time to time, but knowing what the public, what's keeping people up at night, what's worrying people, what they're concerned about, is actually really important. It's important for policymakers. It's important for the third sector, for people in this room, and of course it's important for political parties, particularly as we approach election times. The salience of issues is really, really key. And what this does is shows us that, you know, the two things that are really vexing people at the moment are the state of the health service, particularly important, of course, as we go into the winter, and of course the cost of living and particularly issues around inflation. And that's they are the two key standout issues. And when we look at the trend actually over the last 2 years, which you can see here, you can see how concern about the cost of living crisis, or about the cost of living as an issue, was relatively low, actually, around 1 in 5 2 years ago, and is now, for reasons which we are all fully aware of and which I don't need to go into, of much greater concern, so about half of us. So it's you know, jumped in its importance by about 2.5 times over that period. When we dig into this data, it's what's really interesting, and which is a theme of all of our work in the last couple of years through this survey, is that it highlights the unequal distribution of what the cost of living crisis is having on people, and we'll see that in a minute. But people who tell us that they're concerned about the cost of living crisis or the cost of living as an issue tend to be younger. They tend to be people from larger households, particularly households with children. They tend to be people from Scotland's most deprived communities, as measured by the index of multiple deprivation. And so while these things they may seem quite intuitive and quite obvious on one level, the scale of difference is really quite striking and continues to be so. Important just in passing to note that concern about the environment and climate change is on the rise again, and that is clearly linked to big weather events, both here and over the summer, of course, when it felt like about half of Europe was on fire, which was when we saw that uptick in concern about the environment. And I suspect that will continue to rise as we continue to measure these issues. So my third point out of 4 is we do a lot of work around what we call economic optimism. This is really, really important. How do people feel both about their own finances and about the economy as a whole? And there are two, cutting to the chase, you can see lots of figures up here, but cutting through that, there are 2 things really that are going on here. Well, there are 3 things actually. The first is a rather obvious point, which you won't be surprised to hear me say, is that broadly we feel pretty pessimistic at the moment, right? We feel pretty pessimistic about both our own finances and about where the economy is at the minute. And that won't surprise anyone in the room. But there are 2 really quite important things that are going on here. We are less pessimistic, and I use that term rather than more optimistic because there's not really a huge amount of optimism around. So I use the term less pessimistic. We are less pessimistic about the future than we are about the past. So whether that's thinking about the economy or our own finances, we tend to think where there is a bit of a kind of a slight optimism bias going on. And importantly, we tend to be less pessimistic about our own and our households' finances than we are about the economy as a whole. This is a kind of survey phenomenon, right? The more local you get, the more people are, the more kind of optimistic people are. You see this when you ask about neighbourhoods compared to the country as a whole. And it may explain why, when we ask about the direction that Scotland is going in, we see quite sort of significant levels of pessimism, but when we ask about things more locally, things don't look quite as bad. Now, I'm not trying to sort of sugarcoat this, and you can see that from the figures up there, but you can see here that looking back, people are much more likely to say that the economy was in poor shape than their own personal finances. And looking forward as well, there are, I think, some whether they're green shoots of optimism coming back into people's thinking, I don't know. I wouldn't say at this point. There's not a huge amount of evidence. But if we look at the trend, look at the trend line here, what this shows is kind of net pessimism. So the optimists minus the pessimists, giving you, as you would expect at this stage, a minus figure. But what you can really clearly see here is that all of those, whether we're asking about the economy or we're asking about people's personal finances, are actually slowly but surely ticking upwards. And that is not to say that I think we're coming out of the cost of living crisis. That would be an absolutely daft thing to say, particularly when you see some of the, for instance, what the Trussell Trust has put out this morning. But there does seem to be a bit of uptick. We went through the real depths of pessimism about a year or so ago, where we saw figures that were really off the scale. But we are starting to see a slight uptick. Whether that continues or not is something that we'll be obviously keeping a close eye upon. And my final point, which is about responses to the cost of living crisis, which you can see here, this is what people are doing in response to the cost of living crisis. These are decisions people are making with their own lives. There's some quite difficult stuff, actually, up here. I've highlighted a few things. The issues in red are about charity giving, charity donations, which I think is obviously very, very important to people in this room. And in green, I think they are some of the kind of profound and actually in some ways quite upsetting things that you see from survey data. Things like, around a quarter of us, actually over a quarter of us, are kind of losing sleep and suffering. Our mental health, therefore, is suffering as a result of the crisis. And it's really important, actually, to point out this is not just about how much money is in people's pockets, but that the crisis is having much more profound or equally profound effects in other ways as well. We measure how this is changing over time, and you can see actually that when I say that the crisis clearly isn't over, this, I think, highlights it really, really clearly. The proportion of people telling us they're not putting their heating on, they're losing sleep, they're buying less kind of healthy food, they're skipping meals, has stayed pretty constant, actually, over the last year. And we see that in announcements like the one I was referring to this morning from the Trussell Trust about record numbers of people going to food banks. So, these are long-lasting and pretty profound impacts. We do see that about 25% of people, and this is just my final remark now, telling us that they're reducing how much they give to charity. And this, we see it from the Charity Foundation data, which I've been looking at from last year. This is if not global, this is a kind of UK-wide phenomenon. They have noticed it in the surveys that they do. Fewer people are giving to charity. And about a quarter of people are telling us that they're giving less to charity than they were before the cost of living crisis or as a result of the cost of living crisis. And this tends to be even higher in certain parts of the population. So you'll see there people that particularly live in our more deprived areas, unsurprisingly. And you see sort of middle-aged, the 35 to 44 age group, which actually makes a lot of sense because our data will also tell us that tends to be the cohort of people who are most, I say suffering, but most for whom the cost of living crisis is having the greatest impact. So I'm not here saying everything is dreadful. I'm absolutely not saying that. But what I am saying is that the data is showing that there are really long-lasting impacts of this crisis. We are far from through it. And our job here is to make sure that we continue measuring this and making all of that data available to communities such as this in order that you can see what's happening out there as well. And that is my final remarks. Thanks very much.
And thank you so much, Mark. Next, we're going to hear from Charles Willis from Oscar.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for signing up to data, which is probably the most exciting session at the gathering for the next 2 days. My name's Charles Willis, and I'll be taking you through some of the data that OSCR holds, that it collects throughout the role that it undertakes as Scotland's Charities Regulator. We had a nice piece of whizzy kit which would allow you to vote on 3 questions that I'll be asking during the presentation. Unfortunately, the kit isn't working, so we're going to go back to old school, which is showing of hands. So be ready to show hands. We have 4 main areas where we collect data in our role as the regulator. We have the database that holds our register. We have the annual returns that come in that have lots of detailed information from individual charities. We undertake surveys, a regular survey, and we also have ad hoc surveys that where we need to have more information on various issues than we launch specific surveys for that. And we also have operational data which we use internally to help us run the business of being a regulator. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take odd slides from all of those 4 particular work streams just to show you some of the data we have. And our role as a regulator really is to inform discussion rather than lead it or use our voice. We feel that the information we have will actually inform debate, such as the wider review that the First Minister referenced in an earlier session. So this is, it looks much better on the screen. I can't see it properly on here. You can see this is the number of applications for new charities that OSCR has received over the last few years. And you can see that the trend line on here is going down. We don't know why this is. All we know is we're receiving fewer applications. But that allows us to target our resources more effectively within OSCR. And we know that if we can follow that trend line, if it continues, we can use that to plan our business for the coming years. The second thing I think of note there are the 2 dips at the right end, which tend to coincide with the COVID pandemic and the economic downturn. Now, obviously, this isn't any kind of, I'm not saying that those applications have dropped because of those, but we undertook some further research with regard to what the impact was of the COVID pandemic on charities. This survey, I think, it took place at the back end of 2020, and you can see there things like 36% of charities struggled to meet, 35% were unable to hold their AGM. At the top there, 66% had to cancel planned work events or work streams. And more concerning, on the bottom, on the pink slides, the bottom 2 histogram blocks suggesting 56% of charities were concerned about their reserves during that period of time. So, talking about reserves, this is the first question, so hands ready. What percentage of charities on the Scottish Charity Register have less than £25,000 income per year? The figures I'll give you are 25%, 50% and 75%. So on that first figure, 25%, how many people think 25% and less than £25,000? Wow. Okay, nobody. Next figure is 50%. What proportion of people think 50%? That's a goodly number. And what proportion think 75%? I think the 50% just have it, and in reality it is. It's 53%, according to the annual returns that we receive. The second question that comes very quickly after is, what do people think is the gross annual income of all Scottish charities? And the questions are, the answers are, or potential answers are £5 billion, £10 billion and £15 billion. So how many people think 5 billion? Small but very important group. Thank you. £10 billion. More convincing. And £15 billion. I think the 15's just edge out. And the answer is £15.14 billion. Now, there's a slight issue with that number in that those numbers don't include cross-border charities. We know that there is just under £17 billion of income going to cross-border charities, but unfortunately we can't divide what proportion of that is given from Scotland, so hence why we use the 15 billion figure. And interestingly enough, if we look at those last two slides together, what we find is, as a proportion of income, the charities that receive the most in average income, the right-hand block of over £500,000 a year, they actually take 92.88% of all income in charities in Scotland, to charities. And I looked at, in putting this together, I looked at whether there was, excuse me, any correlation between the length of time a charity has been in existence and its income, and there was none, as far as I could see. It was very random. Some grew very quickly, some declined over time. There was no correlation as far as we could see. We produce every quarter an overview of the data that we hold that is publicly publishable, and we publish that in a quarterly overview. Now, this slide here gives us the information. This is available on our website, and this data that we hold here tells us what the stated purposes are for new charities, how many have come on the register, how many come off, and where they set up. Now, interestingly, I think for me anyway, I was thinking about, so what do people think charities do? What is that view of sort of the old school style, almost Victorian model of charities? And you've got to go somewhere down the line to look at what I think some people would say would be the prime reason for charities to exist, which is the prevention of poverty or advancement of health. That's a third of all the new charities have said that, compared to the advancement of education. So we're looking at education, recreational facilities, advancement of citizenship, and advancement of arts and heritage above health and poverty. When this overview comes out, people are able to see what charities have set up in their area, and in conjunction with our register, you can actually do a search on your postcode. So charities and people can find out how many other charities are operating in their postcode. This slide, I wanted to show roughly what is happening on the register, to the register over the last 10 years. And the scale is a little bit misleading in that we've cut off 2/3 of the line, because otherwise we'd need a much wider screen. And the growth in the number of charities over 10 years has been approximately 7.7%. Of those, 95% of the charities are based in Scotland and registered in Scotland. 5% are cross-border charities. The number of charities that are coming online every year, you can see is quite stable, but it is starting to decline. What our operational data shows is that Oscar has various projects and peaks and troughs with regard to activity, removing charities that we know aren't operational from the register. And this year, this is a big year for Oscar in that I believe, and I have two colleagues in the audience, I'm looking for them to confirm that this is the first year when we will actually remove more charities than come onto the register. There are various technical issues with removing some charities from the register, and the new act that is being implemented this year will allow us to remove more charities that aren't operational. So I understand that on day one we are going to sort of spring into action and use those powers to the fullest extent. Now, this again is operational data, and for us, we actually use this to work out how we could change systems and processes within Oscar. So the blue line shows the number of concerns we receive from the public and others within charities, people within charities. The red line is the number of inappropriate concerns that Oscar receives. So they're concerns that aren't for the charity regulator to deal with. So they may be tribunal issues, they may be criminal issues, issues that are out with the remit of Oscar. And you can see that we have roughly twice as many inappropriate concerns received as we have appropriate. So what we did, and you can see the trend lines are moving further apart as we go to the right. So the number of inappropriate were growing faster than the number of appropriate concerns. So what we did within Oscar is we looked to see what we could do to change that, to help people understand who they should be going to make that complaint or to express that concern. There's nothing more frustrating for a person with a concern than to go through all of that on the phone and then be told, well, actually, it isn't for us. So what we've tried to do is we're trying to help them by directing them to the relevant regulator or authority first contact. And what we've done is we've introduced a new concerns form. And that concerns form was introduced in the penultimate data point on the red line. And you can see the impact of that concerns form as it's come in. We've gone from twice as many down to almost as many. We would hope in the next few months, quarters, that they will actually cross, and the majority of the concerns we receive are appropriate for us to take on. In our biannual survey, we asked the public and charities what their view of a regulator is, what they would want that regulator to do. And the data we have had come back is very different, two opposing views. So with charities, they want the charity to support, guide, check, and then to punish. The public has a very different view in that it regards punishment as the most prevalent act that they would want to see from us. What we've done, in reality, we come on to now. So what proportion of inquiries into charity activities do you think result in Oscar's statutory powers being used? So the figures I will give you are 0.8%, 8% and 80%. So who thinks 0.8%? Who thinks, thank you, 8%? Thank you. And who thinks 80%? A brave but significant vote, thank you. The answer is, of the 238 inquiries Oscar undertook in the last full year, 2 required statutory powers to be used. So that's 0.8%. There are an awful lot of people who got all 3 right, by the way. Have we published the data in any brochure or something? So 0.8% of all of the inquiries that are undertaken. Overall, that's 0.008% of all of the charities on the register. What we do is we offer recommendations. We make recommendations at the end of an inquiry. We also offer guidance and support in a more informal manner, working directly with trustees normally. And the very last, Sarah, thank you. The very last couple of slides. This is a summary of all of the scores for trust and confidence that the public have in charities over our 10 years of surveys. And you can see that the ones that are coloured blue are the first 3 surveys, and they're fairly consistent. There are a couple of minor points where there are different, but primarily they're the same. The latter 2 have quite significant changes. And if we get rid of a lot of the busyness on that slide, you can see that what happens is there's quite a spike. I should explain the scores. So we asked the public how much they trust charities from 0 out of 10 up to 10 out of 10. And there seems to be a growing bulge at 7 and 8 out of 10. So charities, and hopefully Oscar as well, plays its role in this. The way we are working has inspired more confidence in the public. Partially as well, perhaps, and this is a really rich area for researchers, working out why that bubble has grown. I would suggest that perhaps during the COVID and economic downturn, that more people have had direct contact with charities, and they see that the public benefit that is that comes from the work of those charities. So that's us. We have our next publication, excuse me, on January 2024. You can find our publication at that address. We also share all of our publicly shareable data, and we have something called an API that we have that people can sign up to and download data when they want it. If you would like more details of that, please come up to me and my colleague who's sitting bottom right, voting on a fourth question there, and we will be able to give you more details on how to get hold of that data. And of course, don't forget all our other channels of communication. We will put out through our channels when that quarterly overview is next published. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. Wow, what a lovely whistle-stop tour from all of that data. That is really exciting. I even wrote down some notes for myself in my own work. So here we go. Last but certainly not least, it's Steve Grosier from SCVO.
Thank you, Sarah. Hey, folks. How's everyone doing? Thanks for coming along to this session. Final show of hands for today, promise. Can I have a show of hands for how many people are aware of the Scottish Third Sector Tracker? Cool, that's great, thank you. More than I might have thought, so our comms team are obviously doing a good job. So here's the agenda for the next 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to talk you through a bit of the background to the project to set the context for what it is and why it started. I'll give you a little bit on the methodology, but try and keep it in layman's terms, because I know that some people here are probably not professional researchers. And I'll take you through a whistle-stop tour of some of the findings that I think might be quite interesting to this audience. Finally, I'll tell you what SCVO are using the data for there's no point in collecting it if it's not being put to use. And then I'll show you how you can get involved by scanning a wee QR code or visiting our website. But I think the first thing to say is that I'd like to thank the funders of the project, which are, along with Scottish Government, SCVO, and the National Lottery Community Fund and the William Grant Foundation for their support on this project, and to Sarah and the broader advisory group for all their expertise on the design and analysis of the data. So, firstly, why did this project come to life and what was the purpose of it? Back in tail end of 2020, I had just joined SCVO, and there were a number of stakeholders who were interested in collecting data about the impact of the pandemic on third sector organisations. So SCVO put together an advisory group along with stakeholders from government, academics and third sector organisations to try and get a national picture of what the impact had been and what the continuing impact of the pandemic was on organisations, predominantly across their service delivery, their staff and their volunteers, and the sort of financial impact on the organisation. That's how it started, but obviously the tracker still continues, and we have funding for another 4 waves from now. So it's evolved to be a more sort of holistic picture of the general health of the sector. SCVO, me, manage the project on behalf of those funders, and like I say, we're guided by a broader advisory group from the sector. The fieldwork is actually carried out by a research company we want to keep the data anonymous, and we'd like the trust of the organisations to know that they can be open in their responses. So that's why we put it out to consultation. So that's why it started, and this is what it is. So the technical term, I guess, is a longitudinal panel survey, but that simply means that it's a survey that we carry out over time. So anything more than 1 iteration of a survey is a longitudinal survey. The panel part is where we have constructed a sample of organisations, it's around 600 or 700 organisations, and we've built it so that that panel reflects the wider sector. So, for example, if there are 40% of the sector working in social care, 40% of the panel will be organisations that have that as their aim. And we control for the aims of the organisation, the size of the organisation, and whether or not they have staff, and also their sort of geographic location. So it runs quarterly to every 4 months. We're kind of flexible on how long it's in field and when we go to field. It's online and telephone, so if you sign up, you'll conduct the first survey online. You'll conduct the first survey on telephone just to build that rapport with the researchers, and then you'll move to online surveys. It's generally carried out by senior staff because we need the person who completes the survey to have a good understanding of both the service delivery or the programme delivery, the staffing and the volunteers, and also the sort of finances of the organisation. So it's often completed by one person who needs to collect data from elsewhere in the organisation. And as you'll see, it's quantitative and qualitative data we're collecting. So we've got numbers and words, essentially. So the project's been running for 18 months or so, so we've got quite a lot of data so far. I'm going to talk you through some of the top level stuff with a little bit of a drill down into some of the most pressing concerns for or challenges for organisations when this was collected, which was back in the spring. So there's one of the questions that we've repeated every wave has been to ask organisations to identify what their top challenges have been in the last quarter. So this presents them with a list and they have to rank them 1, 2 and 3. So this slide is showing the aggregated scores for those challenges, and on stage right, your left, back during the pandemic or in the summer of 2021, almost 90% of organisations told us that service delivery was their most pressing concern, just sort of unsurprising given lockdowns and so forth. But if we skip forward to the spring of this year, now 7 out of 10 organisations are most concerned with the sort of financial situation in their organisation. As I say, those are sort of aggregate scores where we push together a few categories to make a higher category, and drilling down into the financial category, the financial challenges, gives us a better idea of what's going on. So 45% of organisations are now saying that rising costs and inflation is their most pressing challenge they faced over the last quarter. And that's made up, and the other financial metrics on there you can see are cash flow and difficulty fundraising, which seems to be a bit of a perennial issue for the sector, with 30% or 1 in 3 consistently placing that in their top 3 challenges each time we ask that question. This slide gives us a sort of idea of what's contributing to those rising costs, and what areas of the organisation or operations are seeing the greatest increase. So the time period here is over a year. The blue lines in the middle are April 2022, and the outer edges in yellow is April 2023. And the distance between the two is how much or how many more organisations are saying that it's a concern than it was last year. So for most, it's the cost of materials and supplies that are posing or contributing the most to those rising costs, followed by staffing costs there, and marketing, advertising and fundraising costs. Energy costs are a concern, but perhaps not as much as we might have thought, and I suspect this is due to not a lot of organisations actually owning buildings, and so it's not as pressing as some of these other challenges, some of these other costs. I just want to put this slide up to illustrate that it's not just the quantitative data we're collecting, but we also include space for organisations to tell us in their own words what challenges they're facing, what support they need, what the impact of these rising costs are having. And I've just selected a few examples there to give you a flavour of what people were saying back in April. And we'll continue to ask organisations these questions and other sort of topical questions that come up as we identify issues that are arising. So we don't always just ask what the problem is. We also want to understand how SCVO and other organisations can support the sector. And we often ask questions around what kind of support do you want for X, Y, and Z. Back in the pandemic, we asked about what support you might need to get back up and running after lockdowns. And in the spring, we asked about what support they would like with rising costs. I think, unsurprisingly, given that finances are the top concern, it's additional funding, or most of these are financial related, additional funding, support with energy costs, and I think, interestingly for people, there's help with application scores quite highly on there. And for SCVO, a central source for support available is something that we've been working to try and provide the sector, as it's something they've identified that they would like support with. Unfortunately, or interestingly, despite the support that is available to organisations, well, not the majority, but 41% don't believe that the support available, the practical and financial support available to organisations to help with rising costs is sufficient to support them. Only, I think, 8.7% there are happy with the practical and financial support that is being provided to the sector. I think Charles touched on reserves as well, so I just wanted to include a slide to see what data we had on this. And I think back in the pandemic, it's clear that a lot of organisations were forced to use their reserves to continue operating. The numbers dropped slightly since then, but it's remained fairly consistent from the last 5 waves at around 1 in 3 organisations are on a regular basis making use of their reserves to either cover staff costs or the increased operating costs. I think we've been tracking this now for 6 waves, but we recently added in a question to try and evaluate how sustainable organisations feel the use of these reserves are. And almost half, well, 44% of organisations say that if this level of use of the reserves were to continue, they would struggle with that. So 44% don't think this use is sustainable in the long term. Probably don't have time for that. I'll come back to that if I do. So as I was saying at the start, it's great that we're collecting all this data, and I think it's fantastic that we've got quite a unique project here. I don't think there is anything else quite like it in the UK, and I don't know about Europe, but there are similar programmes, but I don't think there's anything that's panel survey based at a national level. So since we're collecting it, and I think people are finding it valuable, I thought it'd be interesting to tell you what we're using it for. And it's most commonly or most frequently used by my colleagues in the policy team who use it to evidence or inform their positions on campaign work, essentially. A lot of that being around fair funding at the moment. A good chunk of Wave 4, we asked organisations about their fair funding priorities, and that's fed into some of our responses to the government. Also, as you saw in the last slide, organisations are keen to have a central repository of information and support and where they can go for support to help with rising costs. So that's fed into our design of our web pages and what we're trying to do with other service design and delivery that we provide to the sector. Our journalists at TFN often use it to try and raise awareness of some of the issues that the organisations are telling us about, and it's had some coverage in broader mainstream media too, which I'm pleased about. And our partners, including Oscar, have also made use of the data internally to make decisions about their operations. So I'm pleased that it's getting wide reach, but we can always do more. So I encourage you to help me spread the word about the tracker. Finally, I just want to touch on a bit of evaluation we done in the last wave, and that was to ask organisations on the panel if they themselves found it useful to be part of. Again, there's probably no point in running this kind of survey if the organisations don't feel they're getting value from it. But fortunately, 73% think it's a good thing to be part of, with only 7%, not thinking it's useful. So I'm pleased about that, but again, room for improvement. So we're always evaluating and making changes to improve the way we collect the data and the use of the data. So I think that's all I've got time to say on this, but I could chat for hours. So if anyone wants to chat about it, you can come and see me, or you can scan this code or visit our website to find all of the data about the project, some more information. And if you are involved with the running of an organisation, we're always looking for organisations to join the panel. So there's an expression of interest form that you can sign up for there too, particularly if you're a small organisation, because we find them quite difficult to encourage to join. And yeah, I think that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And before we finish up, I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists, but also I might have a couple of questions to pick your brain. So one of the things that really struck me is that we saw the same issues come out in all these different types of data, from public opinion surveys down to monitoring data and then panel data. There's lots of different bits of data for our audience members. In your view, how would you like to see your data used by folks in this room? Yeah, go ahead. Anybody go ahead. Hey, you're on. Yeah, you're on.
Well, first of all, the data is it's available. We go to whatever lengths are necessary to make the data available, not just the headline data. I mean, we also publish stuff in the media and do events to highlight the data, but we make all the data available. We run events. We're very open about what we do. We are absolutely available to talk to people about the data whenever people want to. We try and make the data as uncomplicated as possible. So we have sort of, as I'm sure people in this room do, have sort of data specialists within our team. I'm stressed I'm not absolutely not one of them, but who can do really in-depth tests on the data. So I think for people who want that kind of level of insight and analysis, then our team is always available. But just go in. It's on our website. Go have a look at it. Come to us with any questions. We're hugely open, and all the data is there. So use it in whichever way you'd like to.
Great. I think one of the things that really struck me about that particular data set is it gives a really nice overview of what the public thinks about how the economy is going, and in particular how it relates. So it feels to me like that is really useful scene setting for funding applications, advocacy work, all of that sort of stuff. Unless I'm completely off base, but
no,
that feels right to me.
Yep.
Charles? Thank you. As I said in the presentation, we're really keen to have our publishable data out there, and we would really like it to inform discussion, particularly around the wider review, which is, I think, coming out, is going to be launched this afternoon, I think. Yes, I'm getting nods. Yes. So we would want that data to really inform what people's views are and what they submit to Scottish Government with regard to that wider review, but also just informing in any way their own management of a charity. Perhaps some of our data will give an average across the whole of charities so that you can compare yourself. Doing badly in recent past isn't a bad thing with regard to sort of fundraising, etc. But you can probably see that compare yourself about how you've done. You may have done a lot better than other charities. So feel free to use that data as a comparator as well as to inform your views.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I know that I don't know if there's any other academics in the room, but one of the things that I'm really interested in is we work a lot with academics who are interested in making partnerships with third sector organizations, and the ability to check by postcode what charities are in and operating in that area is so interesting, something I had no idea existed. So I've definitely learned lots today, and I will be taking that back to my academics as well. So thank you so much for that. And Steve, yeah?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Well, I guess the purpose of the tracker is mainly to collect data for support organisations such as SCVO so that we can better support the sector. So that's the intention of collecting this data. And I guess I wouldn't want to be too prescriptive about what I think your organisation might find useful or use it for, because I don't know your organisation. But what I would say is that I think from feedback from the panel, they've found it reassuring that it gives them a voice to tell us and government particularly about what the challenges are and how we can best support you. And I think it maybe makes them feel a little bit less alone when they're facing some of these challenges. So if you dig into the data and the reports, you can see what other charities like yours have been saying in terms of what their challenges are and what support they might like. So yeah, I would encourage you just to explore it, and you might find stuff in there that resonates with your situation, and you might find stuff in there that might help you in your own sort of advocacy work, or, as Sarah suggested, to do funding applications and so on. And I guess, like the others, I'm always open for a conversation if you want to know more about some of the data that we can't make public for anonymity reasons.
That's great. Thank you so much. And if you are in that space, I think taking up the offer to chat with them about how you and your own organization can use their data, if you have the skills within your organization or you know someone who has the analytical skills, a researcher in academia perhaps, to work with you and collaborate on a project using that data, I would really encourage you to take that up, because this is a really rich source. This is, all three of these pieces of data are quite unique, what we have here. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that, because there's a lot of places in the world where they would relish the opportunity to see all of this, to really get a sense of how the sector is working. And again, I think I just want to echo what Steve said, to say that, please, if you're really interested in joining that panel, please do so. The more organizations that can be involved to be more representative of the sector, the better. And it really gives you a sense, if you're thinking strategically about your organization, where you sit, maybe you're coming up to your AGM or speaking to your board, using this sort of data to reflect on where you are in the sector, in the space, and saying, you know what, we're not alone, we are facing all of these issues, and then use that collective voice to advocate for change with some of the things that Kirsten was talking about, and SCVO talks about fair funding, multi-year funding, all of that stuff at a local level and at a national level as well. So I think data feels dry, and I totally recognize that as a quantitative researcher, but it is heartening to see you all in the room. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming. Thank you to our lovely panel, and I implore you to look at these slides and to click on these links and dig in for yourself. So thank you so much.